Those of you watching online at onespotmedia.com. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has relaxed the measures aimed at limiting the spread of COVID-19. Speaking in Parliament this evening, Mr. Holness announced changes to the curfew hours as well as a reduction in the quarantine days for fully vaccinated people. Now our reporter Vashan Brown joins us in studio with more details. Vashan.
Thanks so much, Herman. Now, the Prime Minister was addressing Parliament on a day when Jamaica's COVID-19 positivity rate declined to 6.6%. Now, the World Health Organization has recommended countries aim for a positivity rate of 5% or lower. So, not quite there yet, but the Prime Minister pointed out that the numbers are heading in the right direction. At the same time, Mr. Holness says the number of new hospitalizations is of concern and that will be watched closely. So now, new measures for 4 weeks. First up, the weekday curfew will be 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. starting on June 3 to the morning of July 1.
For weekends, Madam Speaker, the curfew will begin at 8 p.m. on Saturdays and on 2 p.m. on Sundays and end at 5 a.m. the following morning. So we have done, Madam Speaker, a recrafting of the hours to allow for greater commerce.
So essentially an extra 2 hours on Saturdays and the curfew will remain the same for Sundays. Now the Prime Minister says travel has been increasing globally in light of vaccination efforts and he's announced changes to the country's quarantine requirements.
The requirement for all incoming travelers to present a negative COVID-19 test conducted within 3 days of travel remains in place. However, we have reduced the quarantine requirement for fully vaccinated persons to 8 days. To be clear, we do not consider persons fully vaccinated until 2 weeks after they receive the full dosage of the vaccine, meaning both doses in the case of a 2-dose vaccine or 1 dose in the case of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine manufactured by Johnson & Johnson.
Now, as for the stay-at-home orders for people over the age of 60, that will remain in place. However, those in that age group who are fully vaccinated will be exempted. The gathering limit also remains at 10. As for beaches and rivers, well, they will open come June 3, but strict COVID-19 protocols will also have to be followed. As for churches...
Madam Speaker, the maximum number of persons who may be physically present to facilitate worship or electronic broadcast, including officiating clergy and technical support personnel, will be increased from 30 to 50 persons effective June 3rd, 2020. As a reminder, normal worship or memorial services are permitted, but no crusades, conferences, or conventions are to be held. I just want to be clear on this, Madam Speaker. The way it is written in the DRMA is that the churches are allowed to have 1 person for every 36 square feet of church space, up to a maximum of 50 persons. So even if your church is massive, the maximum that you can have for now is 50.
So Vashan, it has been the hot topic for the past week. What did the Prime Minister say about the reopening of the entertainment sector?
Well, as you pointed out, Herman, the reopening of the entertainment sector has been the subject of discussions in the past few days. Mr. Holness says his administration knows the impact COVID-19 is having on the sector.
We are engaged in discussions with the industry with a view to agreeing the appropriate protocols that could facilitate a limited reopening of the industry in the summer. Madam Speaker, you will recall that in our previous attempt to allow entertainment to open up in the summer of 2020 was one of the factors that resulted in our first spike. The discussions have been constructive and encouraging, and the industry has expressed a commitment to implementing strict protocols to allow it to operate in a safe and sustainable way.
Continuing the news. The World Health Organization, WHO, is closely monitoring the outbreak of a deadly infection known as black fungus in India and its impact on recovered COVID-19 patients. There have been over 12,000 black fungus infections in India and 300 deaths. But as Kalisha Williams reports, the WHO says there is no reason for panic at this time.
If left untreated, the black fungus infection can be life-threatening. Medical experts say it starts as a skin infection and could lead to blindness, breathing difficulties, fever, and blackening of the nose. But it is not known to spread from person to person.
It's a normal environmental contaminant, or it exists normally in the environment, and it's usually of no consequence to humans. But the spores can be inhaled into your lungs, they can be into your sinuses, they can go into your eyes.
So far, several states in India have been affected, with at least 300 people dying from the disease.
And if you are immunocompromised in that situation, they can really grow and cause a tremendous number of problems. Our concern in this case is obviously people who have COVID are already, their immune systems are under pressure. Many of those individuals need to receive, of the severe cases, need to receive steroids.
And are there any real concerns for the rest of the world? The WHO revealed that the issue now is that treating the black fungus with steroids can also weaken the immune system and create more problems.
Particularly people who have underlying conditions like diabetes, that they could really have resulted in severe immune suppression. Now, none of this, these are all associations right now, and clearly the reports are very, very significant, because this can kill you. And it often requires, therapy with very specialized antifungal drugs, and often very big surgery, because the fungus sometimes has to actually be cut away, and that's quite horrific for patients.
So is there a reason for other countries to worry?
In India, and we have heard of, I think, in one other country as well, but it isn't something that is rampant. And what we want to do is we want to better understand it. We want to better understand why it's happening, so that steps can be taken to minimize what's happening already and then prevent it from happening elsewhere. So we don't want the viewers to think that this is a new thing, that is spreading around the world, but we have to be careful.
Kalisha Williams, TVJ News.
And there is worry in Wees Road, Bull Bay, St. Andrew. Still reeling from last year's devastation caused by flooding, the people complain that little mitigation work has been done to prevent a recurrence. Sandy Williams has this primetime news follow-up.
Dirt piled along the banks of the Chalky River in Bull Bay, St. Andrew for as far as the eye can see. Some of it came from homes of residents in Wees Road after major flooding last year. Residents of Wees Road in Bull Bay, St. Andrew are still reeling from the impacts of heavy rains last year. This car behind me stands as a grim reminder of what took place last November. The strips on the wall of this house serve as a daily reminder of the devastation for Babette Maraj. It took weeks and lots of manpower to clean the river, but the residents are not satisfied.
What they are doing, they're cleaning, and they're using that same cleaning sand and banking it up on the sides. So if we get a heavy rain right now, what do you think is going to happen? All of that is going to be softened down, don't it? And it's going to collapse back down inside of it and full it up back again. So it's like it would be a waste of time cleaning it like that. You need to get it all up, because I know it don't reach the ground side yet.
As the 2021 Atlantic hurricane season begins, the residents are terrified the river will overflow its banks again.
I tell you right now, I don't know my bedded from my bed food, because the hurricane season is coming up again, and boy, where we pass through, wouldn't like to pass through that again.
I want to leave before it starts. What I experienced November 8th, talking to you now, my eye full of water. I don't want to go back to it. If you look at my foot, when I drop in the water, my children don't try to save me and grandchildren.
Some rebuilding has taken place, such as this perimeter fence, but overall, recovery has been slow.
I have to find money now to go and get a backhoe to bring back the level of right here and right there over that side. Reason being, when the rain do fall, it's all coming back down. So I have to just try to take it time and time. And it wasn't petty cash. Trust me.
It mashed me up so till me I weigh 140 pounds and me look me I weigh 125 pounds. When I see the water in the bathroom, me want to bathe and afraid. I'm not afraid to tell nobody that. Since I got after the 3rd of May, I realized that I revive.
After the incident, there had been talks of relocation, but action has been slow. It's why the people are making this appeal.
I suggest they come and clean the riverbed properly. Dig it out until them reach the grind. If them can get even, you know, like the, what do they call them, retainer walling, concrete walling, is if forget them and clock it come down, then put it at that.
Welcome back to Primetime News, and a special welcome once again to our viewers on onespotmedia.com. We begin this evening with a Primetime News follow-up. Andrea Gordon, the former National Commercial Bank NCB Senior Manager, who was convicted for stealing millions of dollars from the bank, was sentenced to 7 years and 6 months in prison today. In handing down the sentence, the judge said she took into consideration the fact that Ms. Gordon pleaded guilty very early. Kirk Wright has the details.
Former NCB manager Andrea Gordon was on April 29 convicted of stealing over $30 million from the bank and had pleaded guilty to 13 counts of criminal activity. A month later, on Monday, May 31, she was sentenced to 7 years and 6 months for 3 of the counts. For another 3, she was sentenced to 2 years, 11 months, and finally 7 years, 6 months for the remaining 7. The judge, Lorna Shelley Williams, says Ms. Gordon should serve all her sentences at the same time, which means she will only spend 7 years and 6 months in prison. In deciding the sentences, the judge said she took into consideration sentencing guidelines enacted in 2018 as well as the case counts. However, she says central to the issue is that Ms. Gordon used the bank's code provided to her to access its internal account and remove millions of dollars. The judge says she considers that a serious breach of trust and that in sentencing Ms. Gordon, she took that into consideration. Her attorney, Vincent Leslie, begged the judge for a 50% discount in the length of her sentence, saying the pros, as outlined in Ms. Gordon's social inquiry report, far outweigh the cons. But Mr. Leslie was concerned after hearing the sentence handed down.
But I am disappointed that the judge used 20% to reduce her sentence instead of the 50%, which is prescribed by the Criminal Justice Act. So I'm really disappointed. The judge didn't give me a basis, or give the court a basis for departing from the 50%. Because as you're aware, it says that on the first opportunity, if the person pleads guilty, which he did.
But before the sentencing, the judge hinted that the cybercrime and proceeds of crime acts under which Ms. Gordon has been charged are not mentioned under the sentencing guidelines. The Asset Recovery Agency is now making plans to seize property owned by Ms. Gordon to help recover the $34 million for which she was convicted of stealing. The court has set July 9 to hear that application. Kirk Wright, TVJ News.
To a TVJ News follow-up now. The start of the hurricane season has heightened worries for landowners in Clarendon who told us last month they unwittingly purchased lands in a flood-prone area. The Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation has intervened in some cases, but purchasers are still not comfortable. June 1, the start of the hurricane season, brings anxiety for many. More so for people in Clarendon, some of whom recall the June flood of 1986, which killed dozens of people. Well, residents who unwittingly purchased lands on Chang Avenue in the parish an area commonly referred to as the Pond, are growing increasingly worried. In May, Chairman of the Clarendon Municipal Corporation, Winston Mirage, explained that they were barred from building as the area floods when it rains. We spoke with Mr. Mirage again, who says the situation has not changed.
However, what we are seeing is people have been dumping their property, raising the elevation of their lots, and they have been appealing to the minister with responsibility for lands. And so far, one application, the minister have signed off on it, and I am aware that there are 2 other applications pending at the moment.
But some purchasers are now appealing for a building approval.
It's not a bad thing for an appeal, but for me, it's not ideal because the place is still going to flood after everything, and then.
This purchaser is seeking some intervention as she still has a National Housing Trust mortgage to pay while still paying rent. She says she understands the municipal corporation's stance but needs help.
They have done their work in that they went around there and they see it after numerous times after the rain falls, so they know about the situation. So I don't think it's a good idea for me to build around there because it's going to be a lot of problem.
With the minister signing off on the building, Mr. Mirage says the matter is now out of the hands of the municipal corporation. But dumping and building is not an affordable option for some.
I can't afford to build around there because it's very expensive. It's going to be very expensive to dump up that land and all of those things. I don't have that kind of money. I got a grant from Housing Trust. I'm a low-income earner, so it's very difficult.
A representative from the Office of the Prime Minister, which oversees the ministry responsible for lands, promised to look into the situation, but still has not commented on the matter.